schemes draining resources meant for those in need. Meant for those in need. Safety net programs, draining those resources. The depth of the fraud, he went on, takes my breath away. It should take away the breath of all Americans when they see what was going on in Minnesota. The most fascinating thing is it didn't take the breath away of the Minnesota governor, Tim Walz. No. On Sunday, he was on Meet the Press, talking to the nation. You'd think he would have expressed outrage. Nope. He made excuses. Instead of condemning the fraud, condemning the theft, condemning the funneling of taxpayer monies overseas to a terrorist organization, he claimed the problem was President Trump.
Senator John Barrasso took the Senate floor and absolutely lit it up after reports exposed a massive fraud scheme in Minnesota tied to Somali networks and terror funding. And instead of outrage, Tim Walz made excuses. Barrasso didn't hesitate, laying out the crimes, the cover-up, and why Democrats would rather blame Trump than admit failure. Before we dive in, like the video, subscribe to 50 Patriots, grab a seat, settle in, and let's dive right back into it.
Mr. President, on Thanksgiving Day, 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom should have been at home celebrating the holiday with her family. Instead, she lost her life, murdered one day before Thanksgiving. Her killer is an Afghan national, someone Joe Biden flew into this country and without proper vetting. Sarah served in the West Virginia National Guard. She wore the uniform of the United States Army. She was murdered on American soil by someone who never should have been here. This is the tragic cost of Joe Biden's open border policies. It's also a sign of national security weakness. For 4 years, Joe Biden and pro-crime Democrats turned our border into a New York City subway turnstile. No fare enforced, just hop right on in. It was routine for 10,000 illegal immigrants to flood across our nation's southern border on a daily basis. Criminals, gang members, drug traffickers, terrorists, they all came in. For these failed policies, Americans have paid the price. Laken Riley in Georgia, Rachel Morin in Maryland, many others. Today, President Trump and Republicans are ending the chaos, secured the border in record time, and are getting America back on track. We acted fast. We started here in the Senate with the Laken Riley Act. It was the first piece of legislation President Trump signed into law. It mandates that illegal immigrant criminals be detained and removed. Republicans ended catch and release. We stopped the illegal invasion into our country. For the past 6 months, zero illegal immigrants have been released into our country. Under Joe Biden, it was often 10,000 a day. For the first time in 17 years, the backlog of immigration cases is actually going down. Immigration judges can finally do their job. Open border, rubber stamping judges are gone. Interior enforcement is making our communities safer. 70% of ICE arrests are illegal immigrant criminals. They're individuals charged with or convicted of crimes in the United States. During the week of Thanksgiving, ICE worked overtime. They arrested a convicted murderer in California, a convicted rapist in Tennessee, and a convicted drug trafficker in Delaware. Every one of these arrests makes our country safer. These criminals are many more are off our streets because Republicans have acted. Didn't just secure the border for today, we've secured it into the future. Because in July, Republicans passed and President Trump signed into law the largest border security investment in American history, $170 billion. The law finishes the wall. It provides $75 billion for ICE. It gives our agents the resources that they need to continue to deport illegal immigrant criminals. Our law helps train, hire, and retain Border Patrol agents. It even gives them a bonus. Republicans have made a generational investment in American border security. Every Democrat in the Senate voted against it. Republicans voted to deport illegal immigrant criminals. Democrats voted to keep them in our communities. Republicans voted to secure the border. Democrats voted to keep it wide open. Republicans voted to hire Border Patrol agents. Democrats voted for free health care for illegal immigrants. The danger from Joe Biden's open policies remains today, and it's serious, because millions of illegal immigrants are still here. Among them are criminals, cartel members, drug dealers, and terrorist suspects. We're tracking them down. We're sending them home. The damage that Democrats have inflicted on our country runs deeper than most Americans realize, more than they know. Let's look at the situation right now in Minnesota. This week, the New York Times reported that immigrants from Somalia living in Minnesota have been defrauding American taxpayers out of $1 billion. $1 billion. Living in Minnesota, immigrants from Somalia. Investigators from the magazine City Journal found where the stolen money went. As they say, follow the money. According to their reporting, the largest funder of al-Shabaab, which is, as you know, is a terrorist organization affiliated with al-Qaeda. The largest funder of al-Shabaab is the Minnesota taxpayer. How could that be? How can it be that American taxpayers are funding a group affiliated with al-Qaeda? Taxpayers didn't even know it, weren't aware of it. Here's how the scheme worked. Fraudsters created fake companies that exist only on paper. They billed the government for services never provided, or they enrolled children in programs that they didn't need. Then they funneled the stolen money out of our country. Some went to buy luxury cars and real estate. Some went directly to al-Shabaab. This was organized, systemic theft. It went on for years under Democrat leadership, and then it exploded under Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and her vice presidential nominee, Tim Walz, the current governor of Minnesota. No one stopped it until President Trump was elected. Then this is what happened. In June, President Trump appointed Joe Thompson as the acting U.S. attorney for the District of Minnesota. Thompson immediately began bringing charges. So far, dozens of defendants have been charged. This is what Thompson discovered. He said, what we see are schemes stacked upon schemes, draining resources meant for those in need. Meant for those in need. Safety net programs, draining those resources. The depth of the fraud, he went on, takes my breath away. It should take away the breath of all Americans when they see what was going on in Minnesota. The most fascinating thing is it didn't take the breath away of the Minnesota governor, Tim Walz. No. On Sunday, he was on Meet the Press, talking to the nation. You'd think he would have expressed outrage. Nope. He made excuses. Instead of condemning the fraud, condemning the theft, condemning the funneling of taxpayer monies overseas to a terrorist organization, he claimed the problem was President Trump. Must be back on his old talking points from the campaign, where President Trump won in a landslide. Walz said we need to be careful about how we talk. Think about that. American taxpayer dollars funding terrorism, funneled out of the country, and Democrats want us to be careful about how we talk. He's worried about our tone. Here's what the Minnesota governor will not tell you. Many of those charged have close ties to Minnesota Democrats. He don't want you to look over there. Oh, no. Including the Socialist Squad member, Representative Omar. That's why Democrats want to sweep it under the rug, want to hide it from public view, want to say, no, look at President Trump, don't look at us. This is what's wrong, Mr. President. When Democrats prioritize open borders, what do we get? Waste, fraud, abuse, and corruption. And the Democrats look the other way. Because President Trump won, we're bringing these criminals to justice. According to the latest Harvard-Harris poll, 8 in 10 Americans support deporting illegal immigrant criminals. That includes 7 in 10 Democrats. Not sure how many of those would fit in this Senate chamber on the Democrat side of the aisle, but in terms of 7 in 10 Democrats across the country are supportive of the deportation of illegal immigrant criminals. 3 in 4 Americans want the government to eliminate waste, fraud, abuse, and corruption. Not sure who doesn't want us to eliminate that, but 3 out of 4 Americans say get rid of it, and I agree. 7 in 10 Americans also support closing the border with enhanced security, and that's exactly what we're doing. It's not complicated. Americans oppose illegal immigration, they support border security, and they want criminal illegal immigrants removed. Republicans work for the American people, not for the open border activists across the aisle. Americans deserve secure borders, deserve safe communities. That's what Republicans are continuing to deliver. We're securing Americans' borders, we're protecting American families, and we are making America safer. Thank you, Mr. President.
Barrasso opens with a brutal reminder of what weak leadership costs. He tells the story of a young National Guard member murdered on American soil by someone who never should have been in the country, calling it the direct result of reckless open border policies. He says under Joe Biden, the border wasn't enforced, it was abandoned. Tens of thousands crossing daily, criminals and traffickers pouring in, and Americans left to deal with the consequences. Barrasso contrasts that with Republican action, pointing to fast border enforcement, the end of catch and release, and immigration courts finally doing their jobs. Then Barrasso drops the hammer. He turns to Minnesota, where reports show immigrants from Somalia defrauded taxpayers out of roughly $1 billion. Fake companies, fake services, welfare programs abused, money siphoned overseas. And according to investigators, some of that stolen cash went straight to Al-Shabaab, a terrorist group linked to Al-Qaeda. Barrasso asked the question that stops the chamber cold. How did American taxpayer money end up funding terrorism? And that's where Tim Walz comes in. Instead of condemning the fraud, Barrasso says Walz went on national television and told Americans to be careful how we talk. Not furious about terror funding, not outraged about theft, worried about tone. Barrasso calls it unbelievable, accusing Walz of protecting political allies instead of protecting taxpayers. Barrasso points out that many of those charged had ties to Minnesota Democrats, which explains why Democrats want the entire scandal buried. Look away, blame Trump, change the subject, anything but accountability. He closes by reminding Americans this is what happens when Democrats prioritize open borders over law and order, waste, fraud, abuse, corruption, and national security threats. Polls show Americans want criminals deported, borders secured, and taxpayer money protected. And Barrasso says Republicans are delivering exactly that. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video. Subscribe to 50 Patriots. Share this with friends who follow political hearings. And see you in the next one.